Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Enlightened Entrepreneur. Today, I'm very excited to have Dr. Janine joining me on this podcast. The title of our interview is Myth and Misconception about starting your own business that can kill your results before you even get started. My name is Yokai, and today I'm interviewing the expert, Janine Ellenberger, about the common myth and misconception. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Janine.
Thank you, Yukai. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Dr. Janine is a well-known expert when it comes to business and has been in business for many years, worked in South Africa, worked here in the United Kingdom, and now based in the US, still doing what she loves, that is helping people. To get us started, Dr. Janine, would you tell us a bit about your background, your education, and your experience in starting your own business so that our audience can understand who you are, where you're coming from, and how they can relate to where you are right now?
Certainly, Yukai. I was born and grew up in South Africa. I studied medicine in South Africa. I did a postgrad degree for 2 years at the University of Stellenbosch and started my own general practice in South Africa. At that time, my husband was transferred to the UK, so we moved to the UK for a few years, where again I went into medicine, and then started a small practice with a colleague of mine. After a few years there, my husband unfortunately relocated us again, so we moved to the US. We moved to Miami, and unfortunately, my degree does not translate in the United States, so I would have had to go back to med school and do all my exams again and then do a 4-year residency. Unfortunately, I had 2 young children and my husband traveled a lot, so it wasn't very easy to do that. I attempted it very briefly and then unfortunately discovered I was pregnant with my 3rd child. So unfortunately, I should say. So I was in the US with a very strong background in medicine, having worked in my own practices for many years, and 3 young children, and I needed something to do.
That's right. And, you wanted something that you add value at the same time, have the ability to spend time with your family.
Exactly. I have spent many, many years traveling for my work. We have been here in the US for 13 years, and I did maintain my practice for many years and also worked as a consultant in the US. But all of that required huge amounts of travel, and with my husband that travels and 3 children who, living in the US, we didn't have family here, so we had no support system. So it was very important for me to be able to work doing something that I believed and loved, but at the same time being able to spend time, dictate my hours and being close to home when I needed to be.
Incredible. During those early years of, moving to the US, were there any, challenges that sort of maybe moved you to want to go back to work for somebody else? Or, it was all plain sail?
No, nothing in life is plain sailing. No, moving to the US, first of all, although the US is predominantly English based, it was a huge culture shock.
Right.
So just coming here, everything is different, and finding your way around things, it takes quite a while. We moved to Miami initially, so first of all, there was a language barrier there. We had to learn to speak Spanish.
Right.
And it's interesting because I think the more you put yourself out there, the more people you meet who are interested in helping. And I just learned that over the years, I've sort of established relationships with people, and people have guided me, and I've listened to many advisors and many mentors. And I think that does help in making the decision to start your own business and realize that you can do it.
Right. Dr. Janine, at what point did you then decided to go in business for yourself when you arrived in the US?
So when I was working in South Africa, I had a young patient in a the pediatric practice that was affiliated with our practice lost this young patient at the age of 9 to skin cancer and melanoma.
Right.
And that really shocked me. I couldn't believe that kids at the age of 9, could get skin cancer. My father got skin cancer, melanoma, in his 30s, and my sister then developed melanoma in her early 20s. I have 2 redheaded children, and we were living in Miami where the sun shines 365 days a year.
Beautiful.
And it's beautiful, but it's a high risk for skin cancer, especially for people who are at risk for that. And in the work that I was doing in the US at that time, I was consulting for a skincare company. Wherever I went, people would always ask me, you talk about skincare for adults and you talk about this and that, but what about for the children? What about for the young teenagers? And my children were growing up, and I realized that I actually needed to look after their skin as well. And at that time, there was no sunscreen on the market that didn't really have just only chemicals in it. And my belief system was that, the more chemicals you put on your skin, the harder it is for the skin to do its job. It's almost like a little ecosystem. When you start introducing a whole lot of chemicals into an ecosystem, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So I started formulating a sunscreen, a more natural sunscreen for my kids.
Right.
That took a long time, and it was hugely expensive, and not knowing anything about manufacturing or distribution or retail or formulations and stuff like that, it took me a really long time, but I never gave up. I kept going and learning more and meeting more people, and eventually I formulated a sunscreen, and that was the first product in the skincare line that I made. And that took me a long time. It took me about 7 years.
Wow.
To get it ready to the point of where I could actually go and sell it on the market. And then with that, of course, as you start formulating one product, your ideas grow and you start making new ones. So it took me, I registered the company 7 years ago, and we only started selling product 2 years ago.
Incredible. And now the product's available, for a lot of people to use nationwide.
Absolutely. And my goal through making these products was not specifically to sell product. My goal was to educate the younger generation as to the dangers of the sun and using products on their skin. If you look at Boots and you look at all these big department stores or retail outlets where all the teens go and they buy products without even thinking. They think, oh, I've got an acne, I've got a pimple, and they rush in there and they buy Clean and Clear or whatever it is they buy. They don't really think about what they're putting on their skin. And the skin is the largest organ in the body and absorbs what we put on it. And I do believe this compromises its ability to protect itself. So that's why my goal is to educate through a brand the next generation.
Incredible. Let's talk about those early years of developing your product and up to the time you launched it to the market. What were some of the challenges you faced back then?
So the biggest challenge is always, I think, money. You're not drawing an income. You are not generating money. You're just spending huge amounts of money in trying to make this product that you think you can take to market. My biggest challenge initially was not the things I knew. So I kind of knew what I wanted in the product. It was the things I didn't know. For example, website design, label design, accounting systems, how to build a site that had a shopping cart onto it, how to get into retail outlets. And it's very interesting. You can go and there are big companies that will help you do this. And my biggest mistake was believing that the bigger the company, the better the service. So my first mistake I made was I needed a website. But I believed that the website needed to be sort of almost like the store. It needed to be perfect. And I went to a really big company, and they kind of sold me that they would do this job for me for cheaper than another. They would do it normally because it was such a prestigious company, but nevertheless, it was still a lot of money.
Right.
It cost me a fortune, and I think they never gave me what I wanted. And I've subsequently learned that you can really just go to your local university And there are so many interns with so many skills that will help you do that for next to nothing.
Absolutely, because they want, your endorsement. They
They need the
want something to
experience.
work. Yes.
So
Wow.
from going from spending a fortune to having my website designed, my company is now largely run by recent graduates and interns. Where I currently live in Pennsylvania, and we have 10 universities around here. So I have a large pool of interns that I can pull from, and they are great. They are really the backbone of my business right now. They do my social media, they do the website, they update the website. And I think that is something I could not have done without. And this is learning to do that. You have to sort of go out into the community and find out what is there.
Incredible. Let me ask you this. How do you find these interns? How do you communicate with them to the point that they want to work on your website and your stuff?
So
What process do you use?
I do believe any lunch you have on your own is a lunch wasted, or a cup of coffee you have on your own is a cup of coffee wasted. I do believe in networking. So wherever I could do, if anybody said, oh, they'll help me with this information or that information, I would go and meet them and have a cup of coffee and hear what they had to say. And somebody said to me, try the interns and just go and post on the university website. So I called all the universities, and they have departments where you can actually just either post online. There is one a site that you can just post online to multiple colleges, or you go to each individual college, call them, they'll give you a site to log into, and you just post your position on their online wall, essentially. And we got a lot of response from that. And the beauty of it is you can get somebody to help with all aspects of your business from the colleges. So I got somebody that was doing accounting to help me with my books. I got someone that was doing graphic design to help me make labels. I got someone that was doing web design to help me with a website. I got someone that was doing video and film to help me with the videos. So you can really essentially start up your business at a very low cost with great skill just by going to local universities.
Incredible. That's a great, insight for our business owners in our audience there. And thank you for sharing that with us right now. Other than, the challenge you faced in the beginning, looking back now, what would you do differently, that could have perhaps sped the process up to where you want it to be?
I would have probably listened to my husband.
Okay.
Because I anguished over the labels, and I anguished over what the aesthetics of the product needed to look like and the website. And he said to me, don't worry about that. You will change that 100 times before you get to where you want to be. Just launch with what you have. And I probably put off my launch for a year just to get that right, and we're still changing it. So I think it's good to have a mentor in the business, just to help you at certain key points of the business. And whilst there are certain people I certainly would not have listened to, there are many that I would have. So it's good. I think it's good to get advice. It's good to get advice at all stages.
Incredible. Suppose you're talking to somebody, a startup, who thinks that, you can have an overnight success in your business. What would you say to them? Because it's quite clearly, it took 7 years to get your product up to the market. It wasn't an overnight success.
No, it's not an overnight success, and it's a lot of hard work without an income. So you really have to have a passion for it.
Right.
But I think you must not underestimate the amount of work. People will say to me, what do you do with your days? What does your average day look like? And I'm up early. I do emails early in the morning. Then I get my kids off to school, and then I work all day long. Then I get my kids back, and we do the homework and everything else like that, and then I do dinner, and then I'll work again afterwards. So you kind of spend a lot of time outside of your normal working hours working. So it's a lot of hard work. It's definitely not an overnight success. I do think that you just have to have that tenacity to continue. Don't give up. And do the research beforehand. You know, at all stages of your business, have your product reevaluated, get people's feedback, throw it out there and just hear what people have to say. Keep that part of the business, that part of the research of your business going.
Incredible. Thank you so much for that. Now let's jump into the myths and misconception that business owners have about starting a business. What would be the number one myth that you have observed among business owners?
The number one myth is that you are your own boss.
Okay, let's talk about that for a moment.
You are your own boss in that you started running a business. However, you tend to be dependent on many other people. You are dependent on, for example, if you have investors, you are dependent on your investors. You are dependent on, you know, how much money they're giving, what the terms and the conditions are. You're dependent on your employees that you have as well, because you're a startup. You tend to, like I do, I tend to bring in interns, I tend to bring in consultants. I don't necessarily employ people full time, so you're dependent on them. I find that, for example, I will give a big job to somebody and they will almost own that part of the business, and because I'm so busy with multiple things, I will let them run with it. The day they can't do it, I'm almost at a loss. So you find that you have to really be part of every little part of the business. So you're almost working for everybody who's working for you, because you cannot just let them run with it. You need to know what's going on with everything.
How true. That is so true. I wish somebody had told me that in the beginning. I actually discovered it along the way that, oh gosh, you know, I work for everyone else.
You work for everyone else, yes.
Believing that you are your own boss, how does that help you in the long run in running your business?
It helps me in making decisions. For example, if something is not working properly, or if somebody comes in and you sometimes you'll bring people in to have a look at your business, and it happens, I think, with all startups. People will take an interest and they'll come in and they'll say, oh, you know, I need your business plan, I need to look at this and I need to look at that, and they will criticize. I think you get a lot as a small business owner and working for yourself, you get a lot of criticism, and it's quite nice every now and then to be able to say, you know, I actually don't care what you think. It's my business, and this is the way I'm going to be running it.
Yes, this is what I want here. Okay, I put a lot of work in it.
Yes, I put a lot of work in, and yes, I agree you don't agree with this, and I can see your point of view, but I'm still going to run with this idea. So that aspect of it is quite nice.
Incredible. Let's talk about another biggest misconception that business owners have.
I think the misconception that you will be generating income at any time soon is a misconception. I think unless you're in a tech startup where, you know, it just flies, anything else, whatever you make, you reinvest in the business. And I think that's hard, because from somebody who, if you have always earned an income and suddenly you have a business and you think to yourself, okay, well, you know, I'm entitled to so much a month. But really, you can't do that, because you have to reinvest in research. You have to reinvest in training for the people that work for you. You have to reinvest in marketing. So I think the point at which you really start taking money home yourself is far further away than what you think.
Incredible. And what would you say to somebody who, you know, has been believing that for a long time and they're beginning to feel disillusioned?
I think you need to just go back to the basics of why you started the business.
Right.
You know, why did you start the business? What is important? Are you enjoying yourself?
Right.
And can you see the point do you see that point in time where you will be earning an income? And, what is that worth to you?
Incredible. And keep going, being persistent, like we were
Just being
talking
persistent. I think it's what do they say? It's 90% persistent, 10% stupidity.
That is brilliant. I like that. I guess when people give up, after the first few years, they haven't really understood this concept which we're talking about right now.
Do you know, all the small business owners I've spoken to who have made successes say it's 5 years. You have to give it 5 years
to begin to see real benefit and to get a lot of income out of it.
And to see success, it's 5 years. So, I'm still on my way there. So I don't know if that's entirely true. I'll let you know. But that's kind of the time frame I have in my mind. So until then, I'm not going to be disillusioned. I will keep on going.
Excellent. And not only that, you have to have these small success along the way.
Yes.
When you have goals and you set up and hit them and say, okay, if I can hit this goal, I can hit the next one. And you keep on going.
I think that is very true.
Yes, and not give up altogether. Because if you give up altogether, you're the loser, you see.
Yes, totally. And what you're saying is quite right. You do have to set yourself annual goals, and then your slightly longer term goals,
right.
and revisit those all the time.
Absolutely, and make it the necessary adjustment that you need to do
to get there.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the third biggest myth or the biggest misconception that you see there among the business startups.
Let me think. The third one. The third one would be, I don't know if it's a misconception either, is the role, actually, this is a difficult one. I got to 2 and I never thought about the third.
That's okay. That's okay.
I run my company a little differently. So
right.
I'm not looking for huge investors at the moment. I think a lot of small businesses tend to look for investment at an early stage, and they tend to dilute the ownership very quickly because they believe that, and again, it's industry related. I think if you're a tech startup, you definitely need to do that. You need to get the money in early and you need to go quickly because tech is it changes all the time.
It's fast-paced.
It's fast-paced. However, I think if you're a small business and you're in in product development, or you're making products and you're selling products, I think to grow organically is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
And I think to try and keep your company as undiluted as possible for as long as possible is a good thing. Whereas a lot of other startups, I think, would say, no, dilute early, get the money in and grow as quickly as you can. And I find that at the moment, I do have people will come in and say, oh, you do this with your company, do this, and then you'll be able to sell it. And I said, well, I'm really not in it for that. I'm in it to grow a sustainable business that I can have, for many, many years to come. So I think the misconception that you have to bring in investors at an early stage is sometimes a misconception.
Awesome. Really appreciate that. And,
please don't ask me for a fourth one.
No. If you were to start over again, Janine, what would you do different? I know you've been doing this for 7 years. In other words, what would you do more of, and what would you do less of?
I would have gone to market earlier.
Right.
I would have employed people earlier.
Right.
And I would have concentrated more on sales a lot earlier.
Right.
So my focus, just coming from having a scientific background, was more on research and development.
Right.
Whereas if you have a product, the focus does need to be sales. And I think I would have gone out and almost sold it before I'd fully made it, as opposed to spending so much time on perfecting the product before going out and selling it. So I think And I think that's really valuable advice. If you have something, go and trial it, go sell it, even if it's not perfect. Go and get feedback on it. Create the desire in the market for it, and then you can go and sell it. I think that was where I made my biggest mistake. And I do think, once you have sales, everything comes from that. You have the income to do a whole lot of things that you need to do. You've got the income to do more research and more manufacturing. So I think shift the focus, sell something even if you don't have it yet. Sell the concept. Go and find out what interest there is in the market for it before you spend all your time and energy on research and manufacturing and perfecting a product.
So true. One of my experts that I interviewed recently, AJ, said he operates on the concept that ready, fire, aim. You do a bit of research and then you bring the product to the market, and then you use the feedback you get to adjust
to perfect the product.
Yes, and hearing you say that here as well, it's it makes a lot of sense, and I hope our audience here take a mental note of that as well. You've been great talking with us, and I'm sure our audience would love to know what is it that you're promoting, or what is it that you're trying to bring to the world. How can you make the difference to the people? Would you talk to us about your services for a moment?
Certainly, UK. I have a skincare range that is aimed at teenagers, college students, and the young working professional. I have made them for that demographic for two reasons. One, there is nothing on the market that is made just for their skin types. Everything else is anti-aging and for the moms and the grannies and the really expensive creams that they promise eternal use, which is not feasible. What I'm trying to do is I've made something that's really healthy, that feeds and protects their skin. What the 20-year-olds don't know is that skin cancer is the number one cancer in young women, age 24 to 29, and young men age 17 to 24. And that they are getting more and more skin cancers every year. The incidence of skin cancer in that demographic is increasing. So my goal is to bring to them healthy products, but also the education associated with good, healthy habits. So we're very active on social media. And we talk about not just healthy skin, but healthy diet and healthy lifestyles and healthy choices that they can make. And we educate them with regards to ingredients. We focus on what is in our products, and we tell them what is in the products and what it does. So my goal really is just to have a more educated consumer in the under 30 demographic, and to be able to give them great healthy products that protect and feed and nourish their skin at a reasonable price.
Wonderful. And where can people connect with you? Do you have a website or a Twitter or social media?
We have a website. It's www.gr8, the number 8, SKN, Great Skin. It's almost like a car number plate.com. So www.greatskn.com. And we're available online, and we're available in select retailers and spas and salons all over the US and South Africa.
Incredible. And I hope you'll be coming to the UK as well.
We hope so too.
Don't leave us out.
No, definitely. I think the UK needs it.
Yes. Now, is there anything I haven't asked you about starting your own business, that we have been talking about, the topic we've been talking about here, that you feel you would like to share with our audience today?
UK, I think we've dealt with all the myths and the misconceptions and the stumbling blocks and the problems. What we didn't talk about was the excitement and the feeling of accomplishment that one gets when you do start your own business. It's quite exciting seeing something that you have as an idea actually become a reality. And when you see the actual products, and when you see the site go live, and when you see people taking interest in what you have made, it is a lovely feeling to know that what your idea was came to fruition. And I think it's that
Absolutely.
enjoyment and excitement that actually keeps you going and really helps with the perseverance.
Absolutely. And you have this sense of accomplishment that you've created something that is changing someone's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're helping. You're doing something good.
Awesome. Suppose you have a business owner who is just about to give up. What would be your final words to them?
Go back and look at those notes you made in the very beginning. Those notes you scribbled on the piece of paper about your initial idea, and ask yourself why you did that.
Right. And you find within you the strength once again to go forth.
Yes, you remind yourself, because I think sometimes you get bogged down in the logistics of the problems, and there are problems every day. There's another problem, and that can be overwhelming. But if you just remind yourself why, then I think you will have the tenacity to continue.
Absolutely. Talking of problems, wherever you go, there will be problems. Even if you give up today, you go start another thing, you're going to meet another problem, and are you going to give up again? Because you don't want to be somebody who gives up all the time. You just stay focused and follow through, and you will eventually see the results.
And I think if you remind yourself that having your own business, I think anything in life essentially is about solving problems. And if you can just solve the problem, it's really not that hard. Don't make it more complicated than what it is.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Dr. Janine, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us here on this podcast. And I've learned a great deal. And I've been taking some notes, to implement, especially where you mentioned about the intent. I'm certainly going to be implementing that in my own business.
Thank you.
You've been quite generous with your knowledge. Once again, if you're listening and you want to connect with Dr. Janine here, go to www.greatskin.com, which is GRATSKN.com, or alternatively send us an email. We'll put you in connection with Dr. Janine. Do you have a Twitter account or any social media account where people can find you, Dr. Janine?
We do. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and Tumblr. And if our Twitter account is gr8_skn. Our Instagram account is gr8_skn, and all of those, our social media links are on our website.
Beautiful. And once again, thank you so much for being here with us and being so gracious with a lot of knowledge you've been sharing with us. And would love to have you back in another episode talking about business from a different angle if you are available or you have got some time to spare in your busy schedule.
Okay, that would be lovely, Yukan. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you today. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. And for our audience today, thank you for being here with us. And as we always say, implement these strategies that you have learned today. Business really is not all about learning. It is about learning and implementing the strategies that you are learning. Implement these fast, like I'm going to be implementing the intent strategy that Dr. Janine has shared with us. And by doing so, you're going to get so much out of it, and your business is going to grow. And once again, thank you for being here with us. I invite you to visit our website if you are looking for outsourcing needs, which is www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. With that said, have a great day, everyone.